Hello and welcome. I am Thomas Porteous and you're watching The World Report. Let's take a look at some of the top headlines this hour. Israel's army has been ordered to allow the voluntary departure of Gaza Palestinians after Trump's controversial announcement over Gaza resettlement and US takeover plans. Meanwhile, President Trump has said Israel would hand Gaza over to the US after fighting was over, and Palestinians have left the Gaza Strip. Russia says it is now battling a new Ukrainian offensive in the Kursk region as Kyiv offers a humanitarian corridor for civilians. Meanwhile, President Zelensky's forces have been bolstered by the arrival of French and Dutch fighter jets. US President Donald Trump has signed an executive order authorizing sanctions against ICCC investigators, those within the organization who are investigating US citizens or US allies such as Israel will face economic and travel sanctions. A US judge has temporarily halted President Trump's plan to offer a buyout to around 60,000 federal workers. The White House says around 40,000 have accepted the offer to resign as Trump's administration on world to slash the size of federal government. The largest US government workers union and a foreign service association have sued the Trump administration over cuts to USAID. The lawsuit claims the cuts are illegal and have caused a global humanitarian crisis. Trump halted all US foreign aid on his first day in office. The State Department then froze aid projects, took systems offline and laid off staff. Now, USAID faces drastic downsizing with its workforce slashed from 10,000 to fewer than 300. Most staff will be placed on leave by Friday. The White House has yet to respond to the legal challenge. For more on this is our correspondent, Aditya Wadwan. Aditya, what can you tell us about this case?
Well, absolutely, Tom. It is a very significant thing that has happened. Trump has called for the cutting of the staff from the United States aid. USAID is one such organization which is known for, for aiding the entire world. As per some reports, since he has cut off the aid to the entire since he has ordered the closing up of the restricting the workers in the USAID, it will heavily impact, it has already impacted some African countries, many of the WHO, since the United States has also exited the WHO report, the WHO director also said that, because of US exiting the WHO, many cure, many life-saving programs have been halted, Recently, the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, has also said that, due to that South Africa is not performing as it should be performing. And, because of the stop of this USAID, stop of the foreign funding of the United States, there has been a stop on the program, the vaccine program, which was being, developed to control the HIV.
Thank you very much, Aditya, for joining us. For more on this discussion, we are joined by Ambassador Pradeep Kapoor, former diplomat, joining us from New Delhi. Pathikrit Payne, international affairs expert, also live from here in New Delhi. Ambassador Kapoor, I wanted to come to you first. This lawsuit says Trump's US aid cuts are illegal. Do you think these unions have a strong case?
Thank you, Joshua. It is a very important, development which has happened. The USAID, while it has been doing a lot of good work in a large number of countries and in all the continents, a lot of the system has also been leveraged and utilized by the vested interests in the US for promoting their interests in terms of, the CIA has infiltrated part of the system. We had seen this earlier in the US Peace Corps, when the Peace Corps operations had to be completely closed down in India. And that was a very big setback for the Peace Corps efforts globally, and they had to scale down, completely shut down operations globally because of the actions taken by India of expelling all the Peace Corps workers from India. Now, similar things have happened over time with the USAID. USAID is part of the State Department infrastructure, and we have seen that, in the last term, when Trump was president earlier, he had tried to tackle the deep state. He had tried to tackle the elements within the State Department and other ministries and departments of the government of USA in terms of getting them into sync with the US global objectives as defined by him. But that was an effort which he made too little and too late. So this time he's starting out very early, and sometimes we have seen in our entire careers that when a organization gets corrupted significantly, because I've been in Washington now for over a decade. I've interacted very closely with USAID officers. Most of them are very fine and outstanding officers. And some of them have themselves said that the entire system is so corrupted from the inside that it is very difficult to set it right. So when a system has broken down so completely and its objectives have been so distracted and disrupted, and you are working in collaboration, for example, with the George Soros Foundation, which is disrupting democracies globally. You're working in coordination and collaboration with the intelligence agencies, which are not really interested in fostering development work, but more interested in destabilizing or geopolitics. We have seen what the USAID has done in Bangladesh. I've learned that USAID has also done similar sort of disruptive interventions in Myanmar, which I'm very closely invested in terms of giving training to the rebels and encouraging them against the established government there. So when a system like that is completely sort of taken over by elements, while a large portion of the USAID funds would still be used for good purposes and positive purposes, yet the amount which is being used, even in India, we have seen they have been supporting human rights studies, human rights conferences, human rights seminars. Now, for an organization which is supposed to foster development, to encourage and fund activities like the farmers' protests or the anti-CAA riots or the newspaper media organizations which are provoking the people against the government. Even the Hungarian foreign minister has recently said that it's a very good thing that the Trump administration has done. So I think overall it will be good now that the scaling down of the base operations and the career, people within, it's part of the foreign service establishment. So many of the people who opt for aid activities, they go into USAID. So with 300 officers, the skeletal staff now, it'll be easier to build up a new organization and put it in a format that it does not get disrupted or corrupted easily. Back to you, Joshua.
Thank you very much, Ambassador, for joining us. I want to move to Patrick Payne now. Trump obviously stopped US foreign aid on his very first day in office. What does this tell us about his priorities, and what impact is this going to have on people around the world?
Well, I think first and foremost, President Trump, we may agree or disagree with many of his policy decisions, but on this particular issue of the kind of cleaning that he's doing, I think he's doing a great service to the world, because there are a lot of activities across the world which were done in the name of development, which were being funded in the name of goodwill by organizations like USAID. But in reality, those activities had a very, very nefarious agenda. I'll tell you something. February 4, 2025, Department of State came out with a tweet which stated that USAID has long strayed from its original mission of responsibly advancing American interest abroad, and it is now abundantly clear that significant proportion of USAID funding are not aligned with the core national interest of United States. Now, USAID is alleged by Robert Kennedy Jr. to be a front of CIA, and he talked about this in one of the interviews that in Ukraine during 2024, when at that time $5 billion was spent by USAID and other organizations for a regime change, and 1 month before even the even 1 month before the legitimate democratic government was ousted, Victoria Nuland had the cabinet list ready for the next government. There are strong allegations about role of USAID in funding a particular scientist in Wuhan Institute of Virology. There are strong allegations of human trafficking being done by certain organizations funded by USAID. USAID has even had connection with an organization which was closely linked to Falaya Insaniya Foundation, which is nothing but a front of Lashkar-e-Toiba.
Patrick, could I just interject? Many countries depend on USAID for health, food, and disaster relief, including environmental efforts that body put in. Critics say that this is going to lead to a global crisis. How bad could the consequences possibly be, and which countries do you think might suffer the most?
Well, let me put it bluntly. No country will suffer because USAID has been curtailed or dismantled. There are vested interests who would suffer, like the types of RSF, Reporters Sans Frontiers. They say that it would have an impact on journalism. I don't know what kind of journalism depends on USAID. There are countries deliberately kept poor so that they keep on depending on USAID funding. I do not believe that any country worth the name will suffer because of USAID. There was ample opportunity for USAID to do real developmental work in Africa. If they had genuinely done it, Africa would have been a developed country. So it's only those who have been paid by USAID to do activities in the name of development, in the name of welfare, they would be having their purses constrained. Apart from that, I do not believe any major country worth the name would suffer. If USAID was supporting Falaya Insaniya Foundation, which is a front of Lashkar-e-Toiba, then of course you may say that Pakistan will suffer.
Patrick, can I interject once again, please? I want to ask you about one man, Elon Musk. He supports this cost-cutting plan. Why do you think he backs this move?
United States genuinely want democracy to survive. It should not work, with certain elements who believe in regime change games. And USAID was funding such organizations which believes in regime change, as Ambassador Kapoor mentioned, George Soros Foundation. I strongly support Elon Musk in what he is doing because, number one, taxpayers' money of United States cannot be used like this. One of the reasons why so many people across the world hate United States, and it has been stated by a person called Glenn Beck, who is the CEO of Blaze Media, that one of the reasons that so many people around the world hate United States is because of the activities of the likes of USAID, where you enter a country in the name of development, welfare, and then you spread radical leftist ideology. In my country, India, I have seen the kind of poison that has been spread in the name of democracy. You call a democratically elected government in India as fascist majoritarian government. You do all kinds of activities to promote, subversive organizations. You promote separatist institutions, you support the Khalistanis, and then you say that, I'm doing it for the betterment for the world. I refuse to believe organizations like USAID or those who want to defend them. I support what is being done because it will help the world to become a better place to live in. Back to you.
Thank you very much, Patrick Payne, for joining us. We will now move on to some more news updates. Amid the ongoing ceasefire, Israel has ordered the military to allow Gazans to leave if they wish to do so. This comes as President Donald Trump expressed plans for the US to take over Gaza. His plan has been criticized across the world. Here is a report.
Just as the Palestinians began to settle in their homeland, Israel issued orders for its army to enable voluntary departure for Gaza residents. Israel's Defense Minister, Israel Katz, said Gazans should have freedom of movement and migration, and countries critical of Israel's war with Hamas were obligated to take them in.
החמאס השתמש בתושבי עזה כמגינים אנושיים ובנה תשתיות טרור בלב האוכלוסייה, וכעת מחזיק בהם כבני ערובה, סוחט מהם כספים תוך שימוש בסיוע ההומניטרי ומונע את יציאתם מעזה. יש לאפשר לתושבי עזה ליהנות מחופש יציאה והגירה כפי שנהוג בכל מקום בעולם.
This is in line with US President Donald Trump's proposal for the US to take over the territory and resettle its 2.1 million Palestinians elsewhere. Trump has also said that Gaza would be turned over to the US by Israel at the conclusion of fighting. Israeli President Benjamin Netanyahu described the Trump plan as a remarkable idea.
כפי שאתם יודעים, נפגשתי שלשום עם הנשיא טראמפ בפגישה היסטורית שהיא תפנית אדירה לעתיד ישראל. הוא העלה בפגישה הזאת גם את הרעיון שלו לגבי עזה, לגבי היום שאחרי חמאס. ואני חושב שכדאי להקשיב טוב טוב לרעיון הזה שהוא הרעיון המקורי.
However, the Palestinian presidency reiterated its rejection of the plan, which it has said would violate international law, and insisted that Palestine is not for sale. Hamas accused Katz of trying to cover up for a state that has failed to achieve any of its objectives in the war on Gaza and said Palestinians would refuse to leave. Trump's plan has received criticism from other nations as well. Egypt has said it will incite a return of fighting, while Jordan has warned it will spread chaos in the Middle East and jeopardize its peace with Israel. With the involvement of US President and Israel's continued operations in Gaza, the lives of the Palestinians and future of the ceasefire is on stake. Bureau Report, NewsX.
Now let's take a look at some NewsX updates from across South America. Ecuador's presidential candidates, incumbent Daniel Noboa and leftist Luisa Gonzalez, made their final appeals to voters ahead of Sunday's election. They did it to close a campaign overshadowed by cartel violence and economic struggles. The country is gripped by a bloody turf war between local and international crime groups fighting for control of drug routes. Amid rising insecurity, many citizens say they are struggling to survive rather than truly live. Brazilian football legend and former Real Madrid star Marcelo has announced his retirement from professional football. He is widely regarded as one of the greatest left backs, as he has won multiple UEFA Champions League and La Liga titles with Real Madrid before leaving in 2022. Marcelo's career was marked by crucial goals and an unforgettable moments for both club and country. Brazilian mining giant Vale has taken full control of the Boa joint venture by acquiring the 50% stake previously owned by China's Boa Steel. The partnership, formed in 2001, operated the Agua Limpa mine in Minas Gerais, with Vale exercising its purchase option last year. While the deal value was not disclosed, reports suggest the stake was valued at 135 million reais, which is $23.4 million in 2023. The transaction is pending approval from Brazil's antitrust regulator. Chilean astronomers are raising concerns over increasing light pollution near the Pernal Observatory as industrial projects expand in the country's mineral-rich north. Astronomer Agil Olola warns that growing infrastructure and lighting could threaten the darkness essential for astronomical research. Chile, which is known as the home to some of the world's clearest skies, is also hosting the $1.45 billion Extremely Large Telescope project. A canal in a Buenos Aires suburb turned bright red on Thursday, sparking alarm among residents. This happened as the discoloured water flowed into the Rio de la Plata near the ecological reserve. Authorities are testing water samples to determine the cause, with reports suggesting textile dye or chemical waste from local industries may be responsible. Residents claim factories frequently dump toxic waste into the waterway, which has previously appeared in shades of yellow, green and pink with strong chemical odours. Brazil's Finance Minister Fernando Haddad expects inflation to improve this year, but acknowledges it will likely stay above 4.5% until June. He cited a strong drop season and the Brazilians' recent gains as factors that could help control prices. Private economists forecast inflation at 5.51% for 2025, exceeding the bank's central target range. Haddad remains optimistic, comparing inflation trends to Brazil's stronger than expected economic growth in 2024. Santorini has been rattled by hundreds of earthquakes over the past 4 days, prompting thousands of residents to flee the Greek island, with the strongest tremor reaching a magnitude of 5. Authorities have taken precautionary measures as concerns grow over the unusual seismic activity. Watch the latest in this report.
Thousands of people have evacuated Santorini as earthquakes continue to shake the Greek island for a 4th straight day. The strongest tremor so far, recorded on Tuesday, was about 5 magnitude. Officials report that over 11,000 residents have left, with around 7,000 departing by ferry and 4,000 by air. While no significant damage has been reported, authorities have sealed off a cliff-top town due to the risk of rockfalls. Schools have been closed, and large indoor gatherings are being discouraged. As a precaution, 51 additional firefighters, 9 vehicles, a fire department helicopter, and aerial rescue teams have been deployed. However, there are contrasting views of the citizens of Santorini.
Κουνιέται το τελευταίο βράδυ, είναι λίγο πιο αισθητή σε σχέση με τις προηγούμενες ημέρες. Λίγο παραπάνω κουνιέται, αλλά από ό,τι λέει και η Δημοτική Αρχή είναι φυσικό φαινόμενο. Οπότε έχουμε μια ανησυχία, αλλά δεν θα σκάσουμε και από το φόβο, ούτε θα τυποπανίσουμε.
Vasilis Karastathis, director of the Geodynamic Institute of Athens, noted that Greece has never experienced such frequent and strong earthquakes in this way, with both their magnitude and frequency increasing.
D'abord, la maison où je suis, qui se trouve dans la caldeira, est une maison, en tout cas la plus grande partie de la maison, date de 1720. Donc, pendant 500 ans, ça a vécu des tremblements de terre, éruptions volcaniques, et la maison est toujours là, donc il n'y a pas de raison que ça change. Je suis confiante, voilà.
Usually a popular tourist destination, Santorini is now empty. Over the past week, some 11,000 holidaymakers and locals have left the island.
So traditionally around February, March is when we see most of our reservations come in. At the moment, they're a bit stagnant. And naturally, of course, everyone's concerned, but I personally believe this should blow over soon. And no need for anyone to panic for any reason whatsoever.
Although swarms typically involve earthquakes of lower magnitudes, earthquakes in Santorini can last for days to weeks or persist for months. They can even slow down and then intensify again as per reports. Bureau Report, NewsX.
Now let's take a look at some news updates from across the world of business. Amazon will invest over $100 billion in AI in 2025, focusing on AWS. Jassy says AI is the biggest tech shift since the internet. AI, Microsoft and Google also announced massive AI spending. Amazon spent $26.3 billion last year on CapEx last quarter, expecting more this next year. Jassy says lower AI costs won't reduce overall investment. Asian stocks edged up ahead of key US payroll data, while the yen hit a 2-month high on rate hike expectations. China's measured trade response allowed investors to focus on AI, boosting Hong Kong and mainland stocks. US markets remained mixed amid tech sector weakness and economic data awaited. The Japanese yen surged over 2% this week, while sterling held steady after a bow rate cut. Gold neared record levels and oil prices slightly but remained on a losing streak. Tesla raised Model X prices in the US by $5,000, with the base model now at $84,990. The Plaid variant also jumped up to $100,000 following a similar Model S price hike in December. Tesla did not explain the increase, but has been working to cut production costs. In Q4, material and labor costs hit their lowest levels amid falling raw material prices. Walgreens sold more Censora shares for about $300 million, cutting its stake from 6% from 10%. It previously sold $1.1 billion worth of shares in August. The proceeds will go towards debt reduction and corporate purposes. Walgreens said the sale won't affect its long-term partnership with Censora. The IMF expects the Bank of Japan to raise interest rates again this year and reach a neutral level by 2027. Japan's economy is projected to grow 1.1% in 2024, supported by raising wages and stronger domestic demand. The IMF urges Japan to shift spending towards long-term growth and implement a fiscal consolidation plan. Prime Minister Ishiba faces pressure to increase spending despite risks to Japan's high debt. Pinterest forecasted strong Q1 revenue driven by AI-powered ad tools. Spending shares up 19%. Global monthly active users hit a record of 553 million, boosted by Gen Z and shoppable content. Q4 revenue rose 18% to $1.15 billion, slightly above estimates. The company expects adjusted core earnings of up to $170 million, surpassing analysts' expectations. And that is all we have time for. We will continue to bring you more updates from across the world.